Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to my Wild Rift tier list for patch 4.3. We've had a lot of changes in this tier list because we've had the complete overhaul of the rune system, and also we've had all the new boots and just boots in general being updated and new boots being added. So there's a lot of stuff in here, mainly the assassins and the AP mages are rising up to the top of the tier list. But before we get into the tier list, I will be running a giveaway on this video. A big massive thanks to the people over at Riot for giving me some skin codes to give away to you all. So all you have to do to enter the giveaway is like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Any comment, doesn't matter what it is, just leave a comment down below and you'll be entered in the giveaway, which I will be announcing the winners either at the end of this month or the beginning of next month. So make sure you keep an eye out for your YouTube replies to see if I reply to you to announce that you are the winner. But as I mentioned, with the tier list, let's head straight into it. There are a lot of changes to a lot of roles. There are also not really a lot of changes to some of the roles. Some of the roles have kind of stayed the same, but some of the roles have completely changed with how the meta is shaping up. First up, let's take a look at the Baron lane. This is one of the roles that hasn't really changed too much, to be honest with you. I think most of these champions in general didn't really get that many changes because there's not really anything to really work on, to be honest with most of these. You've got champions like Wukong, Renekton, Akali, which are all keeping the same runes. Jax, Fiora, Jace obviously has first strike now, which is going to mean that he stays in the S+ tier, because I think Jace with first strike can definitely bully out a lot of champions in the early game now with first strike to get that little bit bonus true damage, and also gain that little bit of gold as well, which can help him get to his items sooner. Champions like Akali and even Gwen right now are really powerful. The reason why is because the Boots of Mana is very powerful. Now, even though Akali, for example, doesn't need any mana regen, just the amount of ability power and also the flat magic pen in the early game is so huge for AP champions in general, making assassins, AP mages, everyone just benefits so much from these AP boosts. So both of them doing extremely well currently in the meta. As I mentioned, champions like Wukong are still good for the Baron lane. Renekton's still really strong, especially because the early game now, because you can go for Kraken plus Brutal, plus you can go for like Coop or even Lost Stand, and then you can go for a third rune if you really want to. In that tree, you can go for something like Legend Bloodline or even Legend Alacrity for the attack speed in the early game. So Renekton's early game pretty much got even stronger. Jax is still really good split pusher with the likes of Fiora. Jace, as I mentioned, with Strike is really good. Aatrox as well, really good bruiser up in the Baron lane. Still does a lot of healing in general. Garen's still okay. He's not too bad. He's like kind of up there but kind of not up there at the same time. The reason why he stays S+ tier for me is just because he's super easy to play. He's like the most beginner friendly Baron laner to play. Camille's still really good in the Baron lane. Ornn, even after his nerfs, he still finds his way in the S+ tier in the Baron lane. He's still a super tank. He's still super annoying to deal with. He's a really strong Baron laner to play, and to be honest, he gets even more tanky now because of the new runes. Runes like Overgrowth are really good on him, and he could just trade really easily during laning phase. As I mentioned with Gwen, she's also extremely strong in general. S tier again pretty much stayed the same. There are some champions that moved down in the S tier. Champions like Volibear moved down. Dr. Mundo I've also moved down, then Graves has even moved down into B tier, but I'll get to them in a second. But again, S tier are just filled with champions that not like broken like the ones in S+ tier, which pretty much all of these ones are pretty much broken. Champions like Shen, is still really good tank in the Baron lane. Gragas tank also is pretty good. Darius, Irelia, Set, all really good bruisers with like Riven and even Yone. Yone's still really good in the Baron lane, especially with the Berserker Greaves now being added into the game. Malphite and Sion both still really strong tanks with the likes of Shen and Gragas, and that's kind of why I really moved Dr. Mundo down, because it doesn't feel like Dr. Mundo is as strong of a tank as the other tanks in the S+ in the S tier. Champions like Malphite, Sion, Shen, and Gragas, you feel like they could just do a lot more than what Dr. Mundo can do. And also, there's just not really too much magic damage in the game. There's a lot of like one-shotting happening, which is not really that great for Dr. Mundo. Because Dr. Mundo can still get one shot. Yes, he has a lot of healing, but it's still kind of difficult at the same time, because Dr. Mundo can still get one shot and he's not going to have enough time to regen enough health if he's just getting one shot by assassins and mages, you know, left, right, and center. So I think he's not that strong. Volibear, I think he's really good in the jungle. I don't think he's that good in the Baron lane. I think his trading potential, especially in the early game, is just not that great, unfortunately. He's not that good at all really in the Baron lane compared to like the other bruisers and everyone else up in the Baron lane. Olaf is like okay in the Baron lane. He's not too bad. Kennen's still pretty decent. Urgot's still okay. Pantheon, I thought I changed the jungle Pantheon. Okay, I kind of messed this up. Jungle Pantheon should have First Strike, and Baron lane Pantheon should have Conqueror. I kind of messed that up. I need to make sure I change that. But yeah, I kind of messed up the Pantheon keystones, which I will write down now to make sure I change them. Make sure I keep my notes intact. But yeah, B tier, Teemo, Trenderman, Nasus, Singed, again, champions that are normally there. And Graves, to be fair, just doesn't really fit in the Baron lane anymore. I think Graves just gets completely bullied now in the Baron lane with all these bruisers and all these mages, even as a range champion. The problem with Graves right now in the current meta is that he's a very close range kind of marksman in a way. If you get step too close to an assassin or a bruiser, you're just going to die. Like, you're just going to die straight away. And the sustain for Graves is just not going to be enough, unfortunately. And then still Kayle sits down in the C tier. Yeah, there's nothing really changed with Kayle. Kayle just stays down in the C tier. For the other ones, let me get rid of this ad real quick. For the other ones, for jungle, we're going to be seeing some changes. There's quite a lot of changes actually in the jungle, with pretty much everyone in the S+ tier being either an assassin, an AP assassin, or there are a few bruisers here and there, but they're kind of just like all one-shot assassins really in the jungle. Champions like Kayn, for example, Blue Kayn, Assassin Kayn is incredibly strong right now with First Strike, Manamune, the armor AD items being buffed as well. The armor pen items like Ghostblade and Serpent's Fang both being buffed is absolutely insane. Zed as well has found his way back up into the S+ tier. I think he was A before, but he's like shot all the way back up into S+ tier just because First Strike is so incredibly strong right now. That you can see so many champions, you know, Kha'Zix is still up there. Kha'Zix pretty much got even stronger than what he was last patch because of First Strike. Evelynn as well can make full effect of First Strike if you can use her invisibility and her charms very well. Just make sure you don't take damage before you actually jump in. Champions, you know, there's still some bruisers here. You know, as I mentioned, Volibear jungle is still very, very strong. I actually played Volibear jungle yesterday. It was very, very good. Riven jungle, Yone jungle, Wukong, Aatrox, and Lee Sin. These bruisers in general are still very, very strong. But to be honest, if I could pick any jungler to play right now, it would either be like Kayn, Kha'Zix, Evelynn, Gragas, Diana, Zed. You know, one of these crazy you know, AP assassins or AD assassins, because even with, you know, some of these AP assassins like Diana, Evelynn, and Gragas, you could just go for the Boots of Mana as the first item. You're going to be super speedy around the map. You've got a huge amount of ability power, and also you're going to have that mana regen as well as you're roaming through the jungle. So just in general, a lot of changes with the jungle. Like I said, it's mainly to do with assassins and AP champions just in general taking over the meta right now. In the S tier, a few champions in the S tier. Most of these are kind of bruisers in a way. You know, Irelia, Vi, Xin Zhao. These are all still pretty strong champions. Fiora, Shyvana. Obviously, Shyvana's not as good as what she was before. Jarvan, Red Kayn. Obviously, Pantheon should have First Strike. Pantheon's an interesting one because at first I didn't think the Pantheon would be that good with First Strike, but Pantheon First Strike with being able to use your ultimate to jump in, and as soon as you use your ultimate to jump in, because your ultimate deals damage, it actually counts as First Strike. So you already proc First Strike if you deal damage with your ultimate before you actually jump in. So that means that when you're jumping in afterwards with your second ability, your first ability, your other abilities, Pantheon does an insane amount of damage. When I'm playing AD carry, I can't play against Pantheon. It's impossible. I was playing against the Pantheon a couple of days ago, and the Pantheon was just one-shotting me with First Strike. It was absolutely disgusting how much damage Pantheon can do. So I definitely think Pantheon has risen up. He's quite an easy champion to understand as well, quite an easy champion to play. A champion that I haven't really covered too much on, but because of the changes to First Strike, again, this should be First Strike, not Conqueror. Because of some of the changes to First Strike and also the changes to, you know, the buffs that happened to Pantheon. You know, Pantheon has got like 3 or 4 buffs in the past few months, so he's been buffed up quite a lot. So again, really, really strong champion there in the S tier. Then you have, you know, Shen. I still think Shen is pretty good in the jungle because you can just like farm through the jungle, just do whatever you want. Nautilus is still really good, looking for the one-shot potential with Electrocute and going for the AP build. Jace jungle is still really good if you want to go for first strike. Gwen's still really good. Olaf, I have moved down into S tier. The only reason why I moved Olaf down to S tier is because he definitely struggles against assassins a lot. Even though he doesn't lose his armor and magic resist anymore with using his ultimate, he's still not the best against assassins. He's really good. Olaf is really good against bruisers and tanks and champions that have crowd control. But the thing is like when you're trying to 1v1 any of these junglers, you know, Shadow Assassin Kayn, Zed, Kha'Zix, Evelynn, Gragas, Diana, you're just going to get one shot. Like, it's as simple as that. You're just going to get one shot as an Olaf, unless you have like Olaf Lulu or Olaf Yuumi, when maybe you could do a little bit more damage. But it's just absolutely disgusting, you know, how strong these assassins and how strong these AP champions are in general. So that's why I moved Olaf down into the S tier for now. But this could change though, because it's still quite early on in the patch. I think people are still figuring out champions in general. So yeah, I think there's still some things that might change. But yeah, some of the bruisers here are still really good. You know, Vi for the lockdown, Fiora, Echo's still really good. I mean, Echo might even use first strike. I haven't actually played Echo yet or played against an Echo, so I haven't really tested out if first strike Echo is any good or not. You know, Jarvan's still pretty good for lockdown. Nunu for the tankiness, and also roaming around is, you know, he's still pretty good. But yeah, S tier champions in general are just still very, very strong. Moving on down to the A tier, there's been a bit of movement in the A tier as well. I've definitely moved some champions down because my S tier was just getting completely filled up with so many different champions. So I was like, I need to kind of split this up. I took a lot of time and a lot of thought into the tier list in terms of, you know, what champions are not that strong anymore and what champions should be moving down into the A tier, which probably means some of these A tier champions should probably move down to B tier and some of these champions move into C tier, but maybe we'll do that after some time. You know, the champions that I moved down are all of these champions. So Morgana, Camille, Lilia, and Graves. Morgana just, I don't know, Morgana jungle just doesn't really work at the moment. You're just going to get completely bullied out by the AP assassins, the AD assassins, the bruisers, everything in general. You can't double jungle anymore with Morgana. It's super difficult to farm up. You're not that effective in team fights anymore. Just doesn't really, it just kind of falls off really. Camille I thought would move back up into S tier since the buff that happened to her second ability, but she still hasn't found his way back. She still hasn't found her way back into the jungle just yet. So I moved her back down into A tier for now. Lilia just as a champion is quite difficult to kind of reach her goals at the moment, which is all about, you know, champions being grouped together, you trying to hit that 5-person sleep, being able to, you know, run around during team fights. But it's hard to run around during team fights, trying to get that sustain with Conqueror and other items when you're just getting one shot by assassins. It's pretty much as simple as that. Same with Graves really. Again, Graves is a champion that doesn't really do too well against assassins because you're a very close range, you know, auto attack marksman in a way. And if you step too close, you're just going to get one shot by bruisers or assassins. That's kind of the way the meta is at the moment. Champions like Fizz can definitely move up. I'm actually curious what like Fizz with first strike could look like. I think Fizz with Electrocute is a lot better, just because I think most of the time if you're playing Fizz, you're just going to be hit by an auto attack or something before you actually use any of your abilities. I'm not too sure if Fizz's ultimate, when you first hit it, it does damage. I don't think it does. So that actually doesn't count as a stack of first strike. But then just says engaging. Maybe I have to test out Fizz a little bit. But anyway, Fizz in general is still really good because you can just go boots and mana. Electrocute is still really good. Rammus as a tank is still pretty decent. Mundo's still okay in the jungle. Darius, Rengar with first strike is pretty decent. Pyke, AP Twitch is still really good. So these A tier champions in general are all still really good. They're still really, really good options. I think the only kind of bad junglers right now are Warwick, Tryndamere, Master Yi, and Amumu. I think all these junglers just don't fit in the meta at all. They don't really have any benefit. They don't really do too much. They're not really viable at all in the current meta. Yeah, I just don't think they're that good in general. And like I said, to be honest, I could probably move like all of these down into C and then like move some A tier champions down. But maybe I'll do that, you know, a little bit later on down the line. But yeah, it's so difficult for champions like Tryndamere, Master Yi, either like Warwick or even a Mumu that has a lot of crowd control. It's so difficult to deal with these assassins right now and all these insanely burst heavy champions and even the bruisers as well. So I think it's very, very difficult, especially Master Yi. It's like you try and jump in with Master Yi, you'll just get one shot anyway. Like it doesn't even matter. You won't be able to auto attack a few times because you're not against bruisers or tanks. You won't be able to auto attack, get your reset with your first ability. By the time you auto attack, you're just dead anyway. So it doesn't really mean too much. So yeah, that's everything in the jungle. Like I said, a lot of changes in the jungle, and I think, to be honest, there probably might be more changes. But it's nice to see that there's a shift up in the meta anyway. But as an ADC main, kind of scary, not gonna lie to you, a little bit scary, because of all the assassins and every all these scary bruises that are in the meta. Mid lane, another role that has changed ever so slightly. Hasn't really changed too much. There are some champions that moved down, some champions that moved up. Most of the S+ tier champions have stayed the same though. All these AP mages, Ahri, Zoe, Vex, even Akali, Diana, they benefit so much from Boots of Mana that you can just rush Boots of Mana first item. You can roam around the map, do a stupid amount of damage, and pretty much just one-shot everyone on the map. Like, it's actually crazy how strong these boots are, that they make these mages even stronger than what they were before. Because Zoe was pretty good before, so was Vex, so was Ahri. These AP mages were still pretty good before, but now they're even stronger than what they were because of how strong Boots of Mana are. In terms of other champions, Yone's still really good in the mid lane because of Berserker Grease, and you can benefit a lot from that. I don't think you need lethal tempo anymore on these Yasuo and Yone champions, because you just don't need the attack speed. You have attack speed now from Berserker Grease and also from Solari Chargeblade, which will most likely be building to deal more damage in general. So I think that attack speed is enough. So I think just the damage and the overall sustain you get from Conqueror is probably going to be better on these champions. Akali is an AP assassin, still really good. Corki with first strike is also very good. You can proc first strike very, very easily with Corki. You're always going to be the person that deals the most damage, deals the damage first, whether it be from your pokes, from your ultimate, or your first ability. So you'll always be the one hitting someone first and stacking up all that damage with first strike. And the same with Zed as well. Zed with first strike, insanely strong right now. You can just use your shadow, your second ability, to proc first strike, and then jump in with your ultimate afterwards to do a stupid amount of damage. Yeah, Zed, very, very strong, especially now, because another reason why assassins in general are stronger is because stasis also costs so much more gold. Like, stasis is incredibly expensive right now. I think it's like 2,400 gold now you need to complete stasis, and you can't even complete stasis until after 6 minutes into the game. So all these assassins that are looking to one-shot you, they can one-shot you as many times as they want to, because it's hard. It's going to be hard to spend 2,400, 2,600 gold on a boots upgrade when you still need items at the same time to do a lot of damage and to carry your team. So that's why I'm saying, like, it just like, rune changes benefited assassins. Boots changes also benefited assassins. Also, there's armor pen boots as well. So boots also benefited assassins. Stasis changes also benefited assassins. So just assassins in general has shot up, like absolutely shot up. It's absolutely insane. In the S tier, we still have quite a few champions in the S tier, because there's still quite a few good champions to play. Champions like Irelia mid, even though she's a bit more difficult to play, she still works very well. Katarina is still insanely strong. Ziggs, super easy champion that you can just sit back and throw out your abilities and do a lot of damage. Galio is still really good. Twist of Fate with the roams. Yasuo, I still think Yone is better than Yasuo, but both of these champions are very strong right now. Orianna, again, another control mage similar to Ziggs, very, very strong right now. Gragas, Jace with first strike. Lucian mid can still work very well. Swain is still really good with the amount of healing and sustain he has. Kai'Sa mid still really good. Strong AP Kai'Sa mid is still really, really good. There are a few champions that I moved down from S+, as Kassadin and Karma. The reason why I moved Kassadin down is because he kind of gets bullied out quite a lot in the early game, and I think his early game kind of got a little bit more difficult now because of how strong these AP mages are. Sometimes like before in the meta, there wasn't, yes, there was some AP mages, but there weren't that many AP mages in the mid lane, and if they were, they weren't that strong. But now the like Boots of Mana have come in, and now AP mages are as strong as ever. It kind of hurts Kassadin quite a lot, because with Kassadin you just want to survive the early game, get to level 5, use your ultimate, roam around the map. But it's a lot more difficult to survive during the early game. If you're against a Kassadin, then just make sure you bully him out, and that's kind of Kassadin's weakness. And it's going to be even more difficult now to farm with Kassadin, because if the enemy champion or enemy player plays correctly, then they can just bully out the Kassadin, auto attack, use the abilities, and Kassadin won't be able to farm up. Won't be able to farm up and do anything at all. Karma I moved down as well. I mean, even though Karma's like a super easy mid laner to play, I still don't know if she's like worthy of being like broken because like I said, the same with like Baron and jungle. I tried to like change champions around because there's some of the champions I had in like some of these roles were not like insanely broken, you know, like S+ tier worthy, like Karma, like Kassadin, and champions like that. You know, I can say pretty easily that every single champion in jungle right now in S+ tier is insanely strong, like insanely broken right now. Same with Baron lane. I can say that all these champions are insanely broken. I mean, I guess the only jungle one is maybe Riven. Maybe she's not like insanely broken. It's kind of the same with mid lane. So that's why I moved champions like Kassadin and Karma down, because I don't think they're insanely broken compared to the other mages in the mid lane. Compared to the other ones, you know, you compare Kassadin and Karma to like Zoe, Vex, and Ahri, there's just no difference at all. I have moved some champions up though. Veigar is pretty nuts right now. Veigar with boots and mana just one-shots anyone. It's absolutely insane how much damage Veigar can do. You know, if he cages someone, if he lands all of his abilities, he's going to do so much damage with the new boots. And also just being able to rush as much damage as possible now. Infinity Orb as well. You can have so much magic pen, so you can even one-shot tanks as well. Like, this champion is absolutely disgusting right now. Fizz, as I mentioned before, is an AP sassy in the mid lane. I think Fizz can work very, very well, especially with boots and mana, which actually gives him the movement speed to roam around the map. So you can roam around the map more often, do a lot more damage, which is quite nice. Moving on down to the A tier, I was thinking of moving Lux up. Now, obviously, Lux is broken in support right now. I'm not too sure if she's like completely broken as a mid laner. I haven't seen her being played too much in the mid lane. I do think she's insanely strong as a support. As a mid lane, I'm not too sure. I'm still waiting to see like if she's actually, you know, insanely strong or not, or if she's still, you know, just kind of the same as what she was in mid lane. Because yes, your first ability now goes through minions. Your pushing in lane has also been quite heavily nerfed. So your main thing with mid laner, as a mid laner, is, you know, to get the priority in the wave, to push out the mid wave, and to try and like roam around or try and make plays in the jungle. Lux kind of struggles to do that now because the nerfs that happened to her first ability. That's why I feel like support Lux is a lot more stronger, because she doesn't rely as much on wave clear. She's all about playmaking with her first ability, for example. And if she lands a light binding with first ability, you know, your ADC and your team can all follow up. But mid lane Lux, maybe not as strong. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Again, these things, you know, these things can change. Singed, not that great in the mid lane, still pretty mediocre. Same with Kennen, same with Echo. Akshan could probably move up, but I think he's just very difficult to play in general, so that's why I keep it down the A tier. Pyke's still pretty decent in mid lane. Aurelion Sol is just a weird one. I can't tell if Aurelion Sol is either strong or just really, really weak right now, so I just put him in like the middle of the pack at A. And then B tier is still some champions that maybe still need a little bit more light. You know, Seraphine, not really that strong. I think Brand and Annie could maybe move up. Especially because like boots and mana being very, very strong right now. I feel like, you know, Brand in general can just do a lot of burst damage. The same with Annie as well. Both these champions could do a lot of burst damage, so they could definitely move up. Morgana doesn't really benefit a lot from anything, especially in the mid lane, and then Kayle down in C tier. So again, I feel like, you know, Baron lane hasn't really changed too much. Jungle and mid lane have changed quite a bit. Mid lane hasn't changed like too much. Sorry, Baron lane hasn't changed too much. Jungle's changed quite a bit. Mid lane hasn't changed too much, and it's the same with our next role. You know, dual lane again hasn't really changed too much. We do have the new champion Nilah in here. I actually haven't played any games of Nilah yet. I've been so stuck with trying to get the website updated, trying to do all the rune explanations, that I haven't actually played any games of Nilah yet. I have played against Nilah a few times though. This champion does a lot of healing, and I have been watching games from Nilah, sorry. So I think overall, you know, Nilah can be a very, very strong champion. You know, a lot of healing. The only problem with Nilah, the easy thing I found with Nilah is her laning phase is terrible. Like complete. If you think that like Vayne's laning phase is terrible, don't play Nilah, because Nilah's laning phase is even worse. Like, she cannot walk up and hit a single CS if she's against like a double range matchup in bot lane. And even if she's not against a double range matchup, if you're against a mini matchup like Alistar, when you walk up to get CS, you're just going to get into headbutt pulverize range. So you're actually just going to die instantly, basically. She has some really cool things, you know, her ultimate, being able to pull everyone together. Again, as I mentioned, she has a lot of sustain, a lot of healing. So I definitely feel like there's ways that she could definitely work out. Maybe with like a lot of tanks and bruisers, she could do really well. Yeah, overall, I think she's like okay. I don't think she's like broken. She's not S plus tier. I don't think she deserves to go down the A tier either, to be honest with you. Yeah, she deserves like mid of the pack. As for the other champions, again, this tier list has not really changed at all. Tristana, still incredibly strong with lethal tempo, with how much attack speed she gets. She's still really strong. With the new runes, she got even stronger. Same with Kai'Sa, still really strong with Conqueror, and still really strong with some other items. Really good in general. Corki got first strike, so he's just even stronger now in the bot lane. He's really good to play. Ezreal still a super safe AD carry to play, really strong, does quite a lot. You can kite, you can dash forward, do a lot of damage. And Jhin as well got first strike. I feel like Jhin actually with first strike is probably better than Fleet Footwork. It's a difficult one because Fleet Footwork can still give you the movement speed and the kite potential, but the damage that you get from first strike is absolutely insane. If you know how to play Jhin correctly, then you can use this first strike to your full advantage. If you use your dancing grenade, and if you bounce that off minions and then bounce it on an enemy champion, you can then follow up with your second ability, walk up, auto attack, and your first ability, your dancing grenade, will proc first strike. So you'll be able to do that extra damage afterwards to get that little bit of extra gold. So it's just all about understanding when to go in and when to do things with Jhin, which is what makes first strike so strong in my opinion. But Fleet Footwork can still work out. If you still want to go for that route, you can still do that. Vayne's still pretty good in the dragon lane. I still think, you know, Vayne in general with like lethal tempo, she has more sustain now from Legend Bloodline, and just items in general make her really strong. Xayah is still really good if you know how to play her. She's really good, safe AD carry to play. Varus is still really strong as well with Essence Reaver and going for this more Conqueror build with auto attacks. Zeri also still really good. Caitlyn is still really good. Jinx is still really good. Samira as well. Lucian, you know, all these champions are still really good. They all have their own benefits and they all have their own downsides. You know, Caitlyn doesn't really do as much damage as other AD carries, but you can bully in the lane. Jinx doesn't really do much during the laning phase, but she's a late game beast if she can get there. Samira with her team fights and her combos are really good. Lucian early game is really good. Like, all these AD carries have like really strong benefits, but they still have downsides. I think every champion has benefits and downsides in general. Draven down in A tier. Again, I'm not too sure about Draven. I feel like Draven can be really good this patch because you have Coup de Grace. You have Brutal. You have Lethal Tempo, or you can either go Conqueror or Kraken Slayer. And then you can go for like another secondary rune. So I think that with Draven, you can do a lot more damage in the early game. It's just, again, it's the same problems with Draven as what they always are. It's like every single ADC at the moment is building shield bow. And I think it's just so difficult to get a huge advantage during the laning phase because everyone could just sit back and wait for Draven, and you don't have to play aggressive against Draven. If you know how to play against Draven, just don't fight him in the early game. If you don't fight him in the early game, you won't give over kills, and then just wait for your jungler to gank or wait for the perfect time to go in and then look for kills afterwards. It's all about timings with Draven. I think that's the main thing. Or I played against Draven. Twitch not that good in dual lane, a lot better in the jungle. Ashe still not that good. Miss Fortune still not that good. Obviously, Akshan and Senna still stay where they are just because of the playstyles of the champions in general. And then we move on to support. There are two champions in the support role that are completely busted right now, and that is Lux and Soraka. I honestly might even just like leave Lux and Soraka in the S plus tier, and everyone could just move down into the S tier, because my god, both these champions. You need to ban these two champions every single game. Every single game that I look to try and ban champions, I ban Soraka, I ban Lux, and if these two champions are banned, I just ban Kayn, because I can't be bothered to deal with that champion. But look, we're in another patch, but we're in a completely new patch. But look, enchanters are still running over the game. Karma still incredibly strong. I've got so many good wins on Karma. Lulu and Yuumi in general are more passive enchanters, but they still do a lot for your team, and they still can do a lot, and they're still insanely broken. Lux with the playmaking potential, the shielding that Lux can give now. This champion is absolutely insane in the support role. And Soraka, the changes that they did to Soraka are probably some of the craziest changes that I think they've ever done. Soraka is just completely busted right now. You not losing health with your second ability is so insane. It means you could just heal over and over and over again. she's basically a Sona but on crack. Like, that's basically what it is. It's like Sona can heal multiple allies, but Soraka, I'm pretty sure, can heal faster than the actual base fountain, like the Nexus fountain itself. That's how crazy this champion is right now. But yeah, insanely strong champion. Also has her silence. She has the AoE ultimate as well, and because of all of these enchanters now having access to Font of Life, which is going to give you more sustain during laning phase, and also revitalize now, which is going to make your shields and heals even stronger, there's just no turning back towards like an enchanter support. All the enchanter supports right now are insanely strong. They're all really, really good. Thresh is really good still. All these champions in S tier are still really good, but they're just not as strong as these enchanters. That's why I moved Nami down, because Nami is nowhere near as strong now as these other enchanters. If Nami looks to walk up and try and land your, like, try and use your second ability to try and poke, yeah, good luck against a Soraka or a Lux that can just silence you, or a Karma that can do a lot of damage to you. And yeah, I just don't think Nami is as strong as what she... I still think she's good. I will still play Nami. I just don't think she's as strong now as an enchanter as the other ones. Thresh's Glacial Augment's really good. There's a lot of Glacial Augment supports here. Thresh, Alistar, Nautilus. Also, Janna should have Glacial Augment. I don't know why she has... I don't know why she has Aerie, because Janna with Glacial Augment I did a video on, and you know, she's insanely strong right now with Glacial Augment, so I'm not too sure why that's there, but yeah. I need to change this to Glacial Augment. But yeah, Thresh, Alistar, and Nautilus, great Glacial Augment users. And Glacial Augment in general is just quite strong right now, because if you can land your crowd control on a high value target, then they're going to take reduced damage and also be slowed. So it's going to be very difficult for them to escape. Pyke as a roaming carry jungle is still really good. Senna still insanely strong jungler, because you can look to try and trade during the laning phase. Galio's still pretty good. Leona's still pretty good. These champions are pretty damn strong right now, because you'll be able to just engage and just do a lot of damage. Even Leona as well should have Glacial Augment. I am really slacking behind on these rune changes, but it's fine. I had to do so many of these changes on the website that I probably missed some. Things like Glacial Augment Leona and Glacial Augment Janna I might have missed. Gragas still really good. Rakan actually with Glacial Augment seems pretty damn strong. I played against Rakan with Glacial Augment, and actually Ornn with Glacial Augment. I think these two champions can also go for Glacial Augment. I think there's definitely potential there for these two champions. Even though Ornn doesn't have that much crowd control, you only really have your third ability. But if you can land your knock up on your third ability and follow that up with more damage afterwards, absolutely the same. Same with Rakan as well. Rakan's ultimate and also his second ability can proc Glacial Augment. It means it's going to be a lot easier now for you to, when you land your second ability, to just deal more damage afterwards. So I think it's quite strong. Seraphine, Sona just not that strong down in the just support role right now. They're just not really that strong in terms of enchanters compared to the other ones. Braum obviously doesn't have Font of Life anymore, and just in general I don't think Braum is that strong at all. I think Braum is pretty damn weak. Ashe support still okay, very unique, doesn't really work most of the time now. And then, you know, Set, Morgana, and Blitzcrank. No, low-key Blitzcrank could move up into there. Low-key, because Blitzcrank with Glacial Augment and also Hex Flash, that's also another thing I forgot to mention with supports. All these engaged supports now having access to Hex Flash, Blitzcrank, Thresh, Alistar, Nautilus, you know, all these champions that have access to Hex Flash actually make it so they make in the same plays. Like, I've been caught so many times by Hex Flash Blitzcrank hurts because they're so difficult to dodge. Because most of the time, if they play the Hex Flash correctly, they're going to be hiding in bushes. And if they're hiding in bushes, then you're never going to know when the Hex Flash is going to come up. So they just Hex Flash onto you. They do a lot of damage. They hook you. You're just like, shit, it's so hard for you to actually react. So yeah, low-key Blitzcrank could maybe move up. But for now, I keep him down in B tier. But that's pretty much everything for this tier list. Quite a few changes in some roles. Again, some roles like Baron Lane and Druid Lane didn't really get that many changes, but mid lane, jungle, and support definitely got some changes. Again, Wildfire is the website that I run and I do all the builds on. So if you want to check out any of the new builds for any of the champions, you can check this out. So if you want like a new Kha'Zix build with all the new rune setups, with First Strike, Sudden Impact, Mark of the Week, etc., then you can go for that if you want to. Or if you want something like, you know, Soraka right now, who's like the most broken support right now. If you want to know how to play Soraka, you can also do this as well. The descriptions at the bottom here are not up to date, but we'll be updating them over the next like few days. So yeah, they will all get up to date eventually. But yeah, appreciate you all tuning in to the video. Thank you all for tuning into the tier list. Again, make sure you enter in the giveaway by liking the video, subscribe to the channel, and commenting down below. And until next time, take care, and I'll see you in the next wild video. Peace.